Bro, let me ask you something. Do you think it's a good idea to draft players from the same team in fantasy football?
Man, I think there's some goods and I think there's some bads to that. So let's talk about it. Let's get into it and see what we can come up with here. Well, welcome back to C&D Gaming and podcast. We're going to talk about what Chase just asked me that question at the beginning here. We're going to see what we can figure out, come to us an answer together, see
Yeah,
what we can get going
welcome
on this discussion.
welcome back if you're watching and if you're listening, welcome back. We just took a L last week against the Bills, so we're going to see if we can bounce back and beat Miami here.
Man, see, I wish you wouldn't have said that because the podcast people didn't know that we lost. So, we look a little worse in their eyes now, maybe. But no, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
maybe it'll make them want to come watch it and see how bad we playing.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe so. Hey, so let's do this. Let's do a little bit of a pros and cons type thing. Okay, we're gonna start off. We're
All
gonna
right.
start off with the negatives. We're gonna go the opposite way. We're gonna start off with the bad. Let's get the bad out of the way first. So
Okay.
some negatives. What do you think are some negatives to the question you just asked me? What do you think are some negatives to drafting players from the same team?
Well, I think if you draft too many players, which we have a guy in our fantasy league every year that kind of does this with the Cowboys. He's a big
Hey,
Cowboys
we have
fan.
two in our league. Matter of fact, because we got a Bills guy that does it a lot too.
Yeah, that's true. Even Bills guy's not in it though this year, so
Yeah,
might
yeah.
not have to
See,
worry about that anymore. But anyways, getting back to what I was saying was the Cowboys guy. He kind of does it a little bit every year, man. He's a big Cowboys fan, and he just can't help himself. He drafts uh, like one or two like main Cowboy players, and then throughout the season he'll trade and try to get more Cowboys players from like other people. And what ends up happening is like you know obviously if they lose a game, your whole team, every player that you got from the Cowboys is not gonna do good. And then on top of that, if they do win a game, it could only be one or two players that has a really good game, and then the other players, might not even get no targets or might drop the ball or whatever it may be. So I mean, there's a lot of like, there's a lot of cons to, trying to get a lot of same teams in fantasy, in my opinion.
I'm gonna give a pro tip right here because you made me think of something. If you have a guy in your league who wants all the players from one team, draft those players and trade them to him for a freaking haul because I swear they always seem to want to do that. They want all them players. So if you got a guy in your
That's
league
true.
that loves drafting Dolphins players, for example, since we're playing the Dolphins, you get those Dolphin players first because you know that
Yeah,
he's going to want to trade for them, and you
that's
you
true.
take
That
anything you can from them.
that's a good tip to improve your team, because they're gonna want them because they're big fans. So definitely remember that for sure.
So I mean, like you said, I think there is some cons, right? So a big
Right.
thing when it comes to like getting the same players from the same team, like you said, if they have a bad game and stuff, obviously that's the big things. But there's the little small things too, like if you have two receivers from the same team, you know, possibly those two receivers could both have very significant team, games and have really good times and stuff. But majority of the time, there's gonna be one that outplays the other one entirely. So let's say you're smart. You still have two guys from the same team, but you're not gonna play them at the same time because that's not a smart thing to do. But you still got to deal with the fact of figuring out which one's gonna be the better option every week. So do you want to spend your time thinking about like should I put in Waddle or should I put in Hill every week? Which is a bad example because obviously Hill's the better player. But for example, if you have a team like that, you got two receivers from it. Like you don't want to have that argument inside your brain where you're thinking which one's the
Yeah.
better choice. You put in one, the other one does better, then you're sitting there every week bouncing back and forth trying to figure out what's the better option. So
Right.
overall, I mean, having like two, especially two players in the same position is definitely not a good idea if they're from the same team. Maybe if
Yeah.
they're from other positions and stuff, it's a little bit different. But picking two receivers from the same team or two running backs from the same team, stuff like that, I agree with what Chase said. I don't think it's the greatest idea, and I think that it will come back to kind of hurt you, especially as the season goes along and people kind of start to figure out some offenses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What's
I
going
feel
on with
like
them.
not to cut you off again.
No,
Sorry,
you're fine.
but one tip that I would give, to go along with what Dustin was saying is for sure with the wide receivers and tight ends, I wouldn't have the same players on the same team. But honestly, bro, in my opinion, like having the main running back and maybe like one of the backup running backs is maybe a good idea, because it seems like, especially the last couple of years, the starting running backs have been getting hurt, or they might miss a couple games. And if you have the number two running back, then you still got basically the number one for that week because he's going to be the starter. So I don't think the running back necessarily is a as bad choice to have two, but you just got to pay attention because a lot of teams sometimes use running back by committee and they use three or four.
Exactly.
But I
See, that
would
was kind
say,
of my point. Really, that was more like good point what you said, but that was more kind
yeah,
of what I was leaning towards, like these committee teams and stuff, like
right,
having two running backs. I mean, you look back at like Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, big years together and stuff. Like having both of those guys, it's like they were pretty solid. They were pretty solid running backs, but same thing. You'd have one where one would have a really good game, one would have another bad game, and you have to try to figure out which one to put in every week. One's letting you down, one's getting points on your bench. Stuff like that's not good. But
right,
I do agree with having the backups and stuff. But I would say maybe save, personally, my personal opinion, maybe save that kind of stuff for the waiver wire if possible, because a lot of people are not going to be drafting necessarily. That's not always true. Some people are, and depending on how the size of your league and stuff could really depend on this too. But
right,
a lot of people don't draft like backup running backs and stuff a ton, so you might get
right.
lucky. You might be able to like kind of save that stuff for the waiver wire and save your draft picks for some solid positions. But I mean, it's not a bad
Yeah.
idea either. If they're there, they're available, and you have a good feeling about them, absolutely. I mean, take them and get them on your team. That way, if anything happens to the main starter or anything like that, goes wrong, some of these injury-prone players and stuff, it's good to have their backups ready to
Oh
go.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, I think there's probably some more cons that we're not thinking of off the top of our head, but that's kind of the gist of, the negatives of doing something like that in fantasy. Um, but there's definitely some good things too, man. I
Oh,
mean,
I just thought of another one actually too.
go ahead, yeah, before we get
One
into the
more,
good
one,
stuff, yeah.
one more con that just popped into my head. If you got two or three players on the same team, you also got to take into account their bye week. If you ain't got
Yeah,
if you ain't got a lot of replacements, if you got a lot of same team players, you're gonna be screwed for their bye week. So you got to think about their buys actually too, and try to make sure you got people that can fill in on your bench or whatever.
absolutely. You know, and we might make another separate video about this, but I'm gonna hit it for a second. Just talking about bias, I mean, that's a good thing to look at in general.
Yeah.
Obviously, getting the same players, they're gonna be in the same buy, but just in general, kind of trying to see the buys and stuff to focus on when you're doing a draft to make sure you're not drafting a bunch of guys from the same bye week is really a big thing too. So, but like I said, we might come back to that, and make another little separate conversation about that one day. But
Yeah.
that's a good point. Yeah, them like he said with the bye weeks and stuff that you got four players. I mean, it's possible some people have five players from the same
Yeah.
team. Some people have more. And that's like your whole team's out when a bye week comes up like that. So that's a
Right.
tough thing to deal with, trying to
And
figure out, plug and put people in and stuff.
just we mentioned one of our Bills players that really likes the Bills that does that. This past year in fantasy, what he did, he just took an L that week. He
Yeah,
said screw it, and he left all of his players in on the bye, and he just said he could afford to take an L, so he just took an L that week. But then on the other
yeah.
hand, our
He didn't win the
Cowboys.
league.
No, no, he didn't. But I mean, that's just something to think about, though. Are you willing to take a L that week if you got the same players, or are you gonna try to get some waiver wires in there to try to fill in?
Yeah, you don't want to have to try to be plugging and playing on a week like that because,
Uh-uh.
like, going back to what I said with the buys, like you might draft all these guys from this team thinking, oh, okay, well, it's no big deal. I can put my other players in. But what if they have the same buy? Because a lot of the same teams have the same buy that share those bye weeks. And you're sitting here with 10 people on bye that there's nothing left to do. And you're going to start dropping players. You don't want to lose your big, good players and stuff, trying to drop them and get waiver wires. So, I mean,
Right.
I say that risk is pretty high with stuff like that. But like I was getting to, I think we nailed some cons, bro. I really think we covered some bad stuff. Don't want to scare
Yeah,
nobody off of it because there is some good things to it too. There is.
that's true.
Um, I mean, when you're looking at same team players, I think the negatives, like I said, come from kind of picking the same positions, like we mentioned. But when you're coming into different things, maybe doing some pairing up of, different positions. You're looking at maybe having a quarterback and a receiver, or a quarterback and a tight end, or even a quarterback and a running back. Quarterbacks you can pair with a lot of people on the teams and stuff, really make some good stacks. You get some points. Some people are against this. Some people like it. It depends on the person. Some
Yeah.
experts say that stacking's not a good idea. Some say it's a really good idea. I think, me and Chase both kind of believe on the side that stacks and stuff are a pretty good idea. Not necessarily a necessity or anything, but it's definitely something that's worth
Yeah.
looking into. And if
It
you
can
have the chance to do it, you should go for it.
it can definitely help you get a few extra fantasy points if you have like a quarterback and receiver, say, and if the quarterback's throwing touchdowns to your receiver and they're on the same team, that's gonna get you some extra points. And if you didn't have the same wide receiver quarterback, so
Absolutely. And talking about this, I'm gonna just go ahead and say something, man. Like, I know I talk about the Cardinals a lot. We do. It's hard not to talk about our favorite teams and stuff, man. But there's a pairing on that team that I'm excited for, and I don't think people are gonna know what I'm about to say. They're gonna think I'm gonna say, "Oh, Marvin Harrison Jr." But I'm actually gonna say something different, And I've talked about this guy a lot, dude. McBride, Trey McBride. I think getting him and Kyler Murray together on the same team could really do some wonders for your team. First of all,
yeah,
tight end position is kind of slim. We've talked about that in one of our podcast videos. We talked about how the tight end position is kind of slim. So McBride's a good tight end. He should get even better this year. Kyler Murray coming back whole 100% healthy this year. You put those two on there, you got a strong tight end and a good quarterback that's going to pair up well together. Their chemistry's good. McBride was doing really well last year. He should continue to grow. I think, man, like that's probably one of my most. I mean, that's a pairing that I'm looking very forward to this year. That I'm gonna try my best to have on my team in fantasy.
yeah, yeah. That's a good option. I can see that. So
I mean, we're talking about like these guys in our league and stuff. I have a bad habit myself doing that. I have had a couple of years where I had a little bit too many Cardinals players. I had James Conner and Kyler Murray and a receiver and the kicker. I mean, you start getting into stuff
right.
like that,
I
where you
mean,
start
it's
having a little
easy.
too much and stuff.
It's easy, bro. It's honestly, it's really easy to do it and not realize it, just for the fact that
Yeah,
your fandom kind of takes over just a little bit. But then you're like, oh crap, this is fantasy, and it's not as good to have all the same team. But
absolutely.
I've caught myself in that situation, about to take the same players in the draft and be like, nah, I can't do that because that's gonna screw me up. So I
Yeah,
decided not against it. But yeah, it's easy to do, that's for sure.
especially like you said, when it's your favorite team, man. Like
Yeah,
it's kind of fun when you're watching along with your fantasy too. You're watching the
right.
game because you love your team, and you're
Oh
also
yeah,
getting to watch along like on the fantasy app and stuff too.
yeah.
So that's
That's
kind of neat. It's also kind of a headache though. I ain't gonna lie, it's
there.
a little
There's
scary.
nothing better. There's nothing better, man. On Sundays, than sitting there watching your team play, and got your phone and getting all the up, just watching the fantasy points go up live. There's nothing better than that. So, and
Yeah, that stuff stresses me out, man. I ain't gonna
it,
lie.
I tell you what,
God.
I tell you what, it either puts you in a good mood for the rest of your day, or to put you in a really bad mood, depending on how your team's doing. So,
Yeah, it's gonna ruin your Monday when you
yeah,
go to bed seeing you're losing.
Mondays are hard enough as it is, so it just makes it even worse.
How about you, man? I mean, I just talked about Kyler McBride because I'm really excited for him. I got a couple other people I'm excited for, but how about you? You got anybody?
Um,
One person, one team,
yeah, I
or one
mean,
pairing that you're very excited for, or anything? Or
I'm really, I mean, just keeping it homer, bro. I guess you could say I'm really excited for Bryce this year. Bryce and his new wide receiver one and Deontay Johnson, man. He had Adam Thielen last year, but Adam Thielen's not quite as fast and as good of a route runner as Deontay Johnson is. So I'm excited, to see these two guys this year pair up with each other, and I think Bryce is going to be a better fantasy uh, quarterback this year. So we'll see how it plays out, but definitely I'm
absolutely,
excited for
man.
them too.
I agree with you, man. Like I'm a Panthers fan too. I like the Panthers, and I would say that's something exciting because I mean, a big difference from last year. I mean, nothing against the other guys they have, but
No, I mean, like
there wasn't a clear cut tight end. Or no, excuse me, there wasn't a clear cut wide receiver one for
no,
your team. Thielen Thielen, I mean, he came in to be what he was supposed to be. He came in to be a
Yeah,
mentor, to be, a sure guy. You can throw the ball to him, he knows he's going to catch it. But like you say,
yeah.
he's not built no more for the big
Uh,
field stretching
and
runs and stuff like
and
that.
which
He
I
was supposed to
mean,
be that, solid check down guy.
yeah, and Thielen did that. I mean, exactly. He was and he was actually, he had a really Thielen had a really good fantasy year last year. Honestly, he did. He got a lot of points, but that's because he was the only guy that Bryce could really throw to consistently. So now that this year they should be spread out a little bit more. So should be exciting, man.
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. I got another one. It's kind of a either way combo here.
Okay.
Um, we've talked about the Lions a lot. Jared Goff. I mean, he's he's gonna be a good quarterback again. I think this year, no matter what. And there's a couple of guys on that team that you could kind of go with. I mean, you get Goff. You can go with Laporta. You can go with St. Brown. You could even go with their running back. I mean,
Yeah.
he had a lot of receptions and a couple of receiving touchdowns last year and stuff. And I mean, that's what I'm saying with the Lions. I feel like there's a lot of chances, a lot of opportunities there. If you
I
miss
think.
out on getting Laporta because he's probably going to go kind of early, maybe you
Yeah.
can get St. Brown. Miss out on
Right.
St. Brown, it's possible that you can get Gibbs or something like that. I mean, there's a lot of choices on that team that I think you can kind of mismatch
Yeah.
and make a solid stack on there.
I think me personally, if I was just for my preference for the Lions. If I was in that situation, me personally, I would just try to pair up Laporta with Jared Goff. I think that would be a really fun matchup to have. But that's just my
Absolutely.
personal preference.
No, yeah, 100%. That's why I named them first because I would
Yeah,
say the same thing I said with McBride. Like tight end position, it's slim, man. So like, if you can get a
yeah.
hold of Laporta and you got Goff, you got a good quarterback to throw
And
to, a good tight end, and you should be set right there in
the
those two
good thing,
positions.
and the good thing is like the good thing is like once you get Laporta, because you would obviously pick him first, either in the third or fourth round, depending on whenever the tight ends start going off the board. You can kind of wait a little while before you get Jared Goff, because he's not a quarterback that's flying off the board like some of these mobile quarterbacks is. So
That's true. He probably will be kind of middle of the pack on the draft rounds and stuff, so it would be possible that you could save a pick and get him a little later in the rounds and stuff. That's a good point.
yeah. Um, so back to me. So another matchup that I would like to see is maybe maybe Dak and CeeDee Lamb. I mean, they
All
was
right.
passing leader and the number one receiving leader. I mean, why would you not want that again? On the fantasy team, because I mean, there's no reason for them not to do that again. Have a really good year. Although I do think the Cowboys team is maybe not quite going to be as high scoring as they was last year. But I definitely think CD and Dak has that connection that you can't beat, and them two would be fun together.
I was thinking it's kind of funny because one of our other videos when we talked about somebody to avoid, you mentioned the Cowboys. You mentioned
Yeah,
avoiding them,
that's
and
true.
you've said that a couple times. So it's kind of funny you say that. But I mean, like you said, even though you don't think the Cowboys are going to be a high
No,
scoring offense and stuff, like CD still, he's an amazing
CD still
receiver, and
CD. He's
Dak,
gonna get his
yeah,
balls. Yeah,
and Dak has the ability, I think, to get it to him and make some solid plays and stuff. And
yeah.
he's probably about the only person from that team that I would really even
Oh yeah,
consider stacking with Dak.
definitely.
Absolutely.
And even if they're not winning ball game, just them two having the connection during the game, because Dak's gonna get CD the ball. So I mean, his fantasy value is still really high just because of the fact that he's gonna be his, obviously his number one. Hopefully Jerry can get him paid here soon because he's not
Yeah,
practicing right now. So once they get that figured out, then I don't see a reason why they couldn't be a top duo together in your fantasy league.
absolutely, man. That's very true. I feel like CD's one of them guys you just don't bet against, man. He's a solid player.
Yeah, I didn't really. I gotta say I didn't really like him that much when he was first coming out in the league. He was kind of a high first round draft pick, and a lot of people were talking about him, and I didn't really see the buzz or hype in him. But honestly, I didn't watch a lot of him in college, so I didn't really know. But he's changed my mind about him. He's definitely I think one of the top receivers in the league Uh, so he's uh, he's changed my mind about him. That's what I can say.
Absolutely, man. I think he should go to Arizona. That's my opinion. Bring him to our team. We'll take him.
Man, could you imagine him and Marvin Harrison? Oh my goodness, that would freaking be
Yeah.
unreal.
Like him, let him and Kyler reunite since they
Yeah.
played together for a little while. So I do have another thing in mind here. I was thinking about while you were talking.
Okay.
Uh, and
What's
I
up?
thought about it a little bit already, but so far I've mentioned quarterback and receiver type player, tight end, receiver, whatever. But I got one that I'm gonna go with the running back on. Okay, so we've talked about this a little bit, some of our videos and stuff too, our podcast videos. That the Bills. The Bills are a team that we're not entirely sure about. A lot of people, I mean, not just us. It's like a pretty general buzz right now that a lot of people are not sure how they're going to be this year. People are saying they missed their chance, that they might be done, they're cooked, whatever, blah blah blah. I think through all that, like I said, Josh Allen's a fantastic quarterback. The dude, he's another person that I would never bet against. I'm gonna say you get Josh Allen and James Cook from that team. You pair them up. I think they're going to be a solid duo because I
Yeah.
mean, we talked about it. Like Josh Allen lost a lot of his receiving options. Seems like him and Cook's been kind of building some chemistry and trust, and Cook's been he's been cleaning up some of his mistakes and stuff. It feels like, and he's also gotten to the point where it feels like he's kind of like that check down guy too, which a lot of running backs are.
Right.
But he makes the best of his opportunities. It seems like he's not just let me just turn around, catch the ball, get 5 yards and stop. No, he seems like he breaks some tackles, he gets some movement going and stuff. And I think that them two together, I feel like might be the best thing that you can get from the Bills. That's my opinion on it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree. Definitely. Definitely. James Cook got a lot of. His production kind of picked up more towards the end of the season last year than at the beginning. Which he was a rookie last year, so I mean, obviously they kind of like slowly worked him into the mix, and he by the end of the season, man, they was like full go on him, and that's why they got rid of Singletary. So
Absolutely.
that's definitely a very good point because they got rid of Diz, they got rid of Gabe Davis, and so you don't know for sure how the receiver option is going to be. So having that really good, reliable check down running back right there, I can see it.
Absolutely, man.
All right, so my third one, I'm gonna go with a running back too. We went with one. I'm gonna go with one too. I think I'm not sure who the quarterback is gonna be for the Broncos, but I'm gonna say whoever their quarterback is, and Javante Williams, man, he's a really good check down running back. And before the year before he got hurt, he was flying around. He was catching balls and getting a lot of yardage. And he's kind of hurt a little last year. He come back maybe a little too early, but this year he should be fully healthy, fully go. And I think he's gonna be a real good pass and run option for the Broncos, and I don't see why he won't have a great fantasy year this year.
I like Williams, man. He's a solid dude.
Yeah,
I think he's going to have a good season in general. We talked about him on our running back video. I think both of us mentioned his name a little bit. So yeah, I mean, absolutely. You said there is some quarterback uncertainty there, but I mean, you said the same thing. Anybody that fills in that position, I think will have there'll be a lot of trust with him because he's a reliable guy. So anybody
yeah,
that goes in that position is probably going to be pretty happy to throw the ball to him. And
yeah. And they did draft Bo Nix out of
yeah,
Oregon.
yeah,
So if I'm not mistaken, I mean I'm guessing from what I've been reading and hearing from their training camp, it sounds like he's going to be their starters week one. So it sounds like it'll be rookie Bo Nix, which
yeah. I know they
I
got
think
him like projected in the fantasy league already. He's projected as their
yeah.
starter. So
So he must be doing really good then. And I know he's kind of an older quarterback coming out of college because he had a lot of years in college due to COVID year and stuff. He was able to have a couple more extra years in college. So he's an older kind of quarterback coming out, but he's also had a lot more time to play and get reps and stuff in college. So
well,
so that'll be good.
That's a big thing with rookie quarterbacks too. Is like they're nervous, they're in there, they're scared. They look for that check down guy. They look for that
Yeah,
reliable target. And I think yeah, it's a good idea. I think Javonte Williams will be that guy for him. Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. That's true. And the Broncos, they have a pretty solid offensive line, so I don't think they'll have any problems there. So
That's good. That's good. That's yes. I mean, we gave you the goods, we gave you the bads. You take it in, you make your decision on what you think. Overall, though, man, I'm gonna say that I think it can be if you can do it right. That there's some solid options there for having some of the same players on the same team.
oh yeah,
And there is the
absolutely.
negatives, but if you do it right, you draft it right, you have those key players in those positions drafted. I think you can really use it, take that to your advantage, and maybe surprise some people that are against it. So
Yeah, 100%, man. You just gotta really be smart about it, and you can make it happen for sure.
absolutely. So for our podcast listeners, we appreciate you guys tuning in as always. Hopefully, we gave you some wisdom today, something you can use.
Yeah, maybe
Um,
maybe some new ideas that you might not have thought about before. So
yeah, maybe so. Something learned, something new.
yeah.
So,
All right, for your video watchers, this game is almost over. Pretty much,
winding down here.
pretty much controlled this game better than our last one anyway. So
Yeah, this was a redemption. The Dolphins they had a pretty decent schedule too. I mean, not schedule but a
yeah.
record too, so it's just pretty solid. Still, still a pretty close game. So had some
Oh yeah, no doubt.
moments there.
Let's go ahead and give it back to
You
him
know,
first.
it's kind of becoming a tradition. Every time we finish up our videos here, we kind of talk about the Jets a little bit. I don't know why it's not been intentional, but I'm gonna talk about them again because another duo I was kind of thinking about was actually maybe Aaron Rodgers and Hall. Hall was before his injury and stuff. He was doing pretty good in the receiving game, man. He was pretty solid in that area too. And with Rodgers, if you go back and look at Rodgers, he does tend to throw to his running backs and stuff pretty often. So I think
Yeah,
that's going to be another
he
option.
definitely loved Aaron Jones in Green Bay. That's true.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah.
screen.
Screen.
Oh,
Oh,
fake
whoa.
screen. Oh, wow, that was a
We
good one.
thought it
They got
was.
me. Yeah, they faked us out, but it didn't work.
So that was an exclusive for our video watchers, an exclusive pick right there. That's maybe another one you can look into. But it's going to be probably kind of hard to get some of those guys like that, Rodgers and Hall together. It might be a tough thing to do because they're both going to be probably drafted pretty high when their time comes.
Oh yeah,
But I mean, if you can do it, if you can get those two guys together, man, that's gonna be solid. I mean, even without the pairing idea, even without the stack idea, they're two very good players that would do just good by themselves.
right.
Oh, it's a Hail Mary. What?
Man, I thought you had that one.
I wasn't sure what was going on there. I didn't realize it was a Hail Mary throw. It didn't look like it was, but
Yeah.
all right, well, there's our W. Get back our win since we had that loss. Get back on track here. See if
Oh
we
yeah.
can make it to the playoffs. So
Yes, sir. Well, we appreciate y'all guys watching, and thank you for watching the video, and leave us a like, comment some combos that you guys like, maybe somebody we didn't mention, and give us some ideas, maybe somebody we didn't think about. So
or if you disagree with anything we said, let us know. We want to know. We want the
100%,
heat.
100%. All right, we'll
All
catch
right.
y'all guys on the next one.